They mocked my online business for years. They called it a hobby. Laughed in my face. Now they want a loan. Because their star graduate is broke. They used to laugh when I told them I was running a business. Not behind my back either, full, open ridicule at the dinner table. My father with his arched brow. My mother with that tight-lipped smile. Bradley's trying something online, they'd say, like I was dabbling in magic tricks instead of building a company. I didn't go to college. Not because I wasn't smart enough, I simply didn't want to buy into someone else's blueprint for success. While my cousins wore school colors and joined debating societies, I stayed in the same twin bed I'd slept in since I was 10, hunched over a second-hand laptop, crafting an e-commerce brand from nothing. My bedroom was my office. My savings were my capital. My belief in the idea was the only thing that kept the lights on. At first, it was phone cases. Custom. Minimalist. Then came graphic tees, niche accessories, a slow burn of momentum that eventually exploded. While the rest of my family was lining up for internships and polishing resumes, I was managing inventory worth more than their starting salaries. Still, at weddings or holiday barbecues, I was introduced with a patronizing chuckle, "This is Bradley. He's between things." It was easier for them to dismiss me than to recalibrate their view of success. Especially since it didn't wear a tie or come with a plaque. Then came her party. Kathy's graduation was the kind of event that made the rest of us feel like extras in her highlight reel. She had just finished her degree in international relations at a top-tier university. Fluent in 3 languages. Voted class president. Volunteered in her free time. The family's self-anointed monarch, polished and perfect. She was the girl they held up when they wanted to remind the rest of us how far we'd fallen short. We'd never clashed outright, Kathy and I. There was never a need. She floated above conflict, glowing with the kind of charm that made people want to applaud when she ordered a latte. But her parents, my Aunt Lori and Uncle Bobby, treated her like royalty in exile. Every minor win got the full treatment: banners, balloons, photo albums titled things like "Our Bright Star Shines Again." So when her graduation celebration invite arrived, cream cardstock, cursive font, I knew exactly what I was walking into. I just didn't expect to be treated like part of the staff. I arrived early to avoid traffic, only to be flagged down at the curb by Aunt Lori, wielding a neon vest like a parking attendant on Black Friday. "Oh, perfect timing, Bradley," she chirped, thrusting the vest at me. "We've got cars lined up around the block, can you help with parking for a bit? You're good with logistics, right? That little internet thing you do?" "No hello. No thanks for coming. Just a walkie-talkie and a task, like I was the hired help." I stared at her, half expecting her to realize how wildly inappropriate she was being. "Lori," I said slowly, "I'm here to celebrate. Not to work." She laughed, genuinely amused. "Just for an hour. You're such a whiz at organization. I knew you wouldn't mind." I should have walked. Should have handed her the vest and left it on the grass. But something old and stupid in me, maybe loyalty, maybe guilt, made me nod. For the next 90 minutes, I guided SUVs into angled patches on the lawn, directed elderly guests away from potholes, and swallowed the burn of humiliation with every wave. No one relieved me. No one offered a drink or so much as a thank you. By the time I finally sank into a chair near the buffet line, I was sunbaked and dusty, parked next to a fern taller than my dignity. The party had truly begun. Kathy glided between tables like she was running for local office. Dressed in pristine white, she shimmered with every step, her hair glowing under the string lights. There was a golden banner stretched across the fence, "Congratulations, Kathy." And a bright red ribbon looped across the driveway gate, hiding what was clearly a new car. I spotted my name scribbled on a paper place card, half buried beneath a potted plant. Far from the center tables, isolated like an afterthought. My mother sat in the front row, clapping like she'd raised Kathy herself. I clenched my hands beneath the table. The muscles in my jaw ached from the effort of keeping my face neutral. When someone passed Kathy a microphone, she tapped it like she was about to deliver the State of the Union. She smiled, all rehearsed modesty. "Hi, everyone. Wow. I'm honestly overwhelmed by all the love here tonight. I knew what came next: gratitude, family, hard work, dreams. But I wasn't really listening. Because beneath the clatter of cutlery and the buzz of champagne, something was shifting in me. Not anger. Not jealousy. Something colder. Resolve. Let them raise their glasses. Let them fawn over her polished resume. They had no idea what I was about to do. And it would all start with this party. I just want to thank everyone for being here, Kathy said, lifting her glass with the precision of someone born rehearsed. Her white dress shimmered under the string lights like it had a spotlight of its own. It means the world to be surrounded by people who value hard work and real education, especially in an age where people get sidetracked by online hobbies. Her eyes found me instantly. She held the gaze for a beat too long. That smile, too perfect, tugged at the corners of her mouth like a bow pulled tight. The silence that followed was short-lived. Laughter rippled through the tables. Real laughter. Uncle Bobby choked on his wine. Cousin Lucas let out a wheeze and slapped his thigh. Even my mother, God bless her, offered a helpless little smile, like she wished she could stop herself but didn't try too hard. Heat flared beneath my collar, crawling up the back of my neck. I focused on the sweating glass in my hand, the condensation trailing down like a nervous tear. I didn't flinch. Not yet. Kathy went on, unbothered. Or maybe thrilled. Some of us spent 4 years earning degrees that actually mean something. Sorry, not sorry. Another round of smug chuckles. She clinked glasses with 2 of her adoring friends and handed the microphone back like it had never belonged to anyone else. Mic drop. Scene closed. My mother turned in her chair, offered me a weak shrug. She didn't mean it. But of course she did. It wasn't the ribbon-wrapped car or the banner dripping in gold that got to me. Not even the speech. It was everything that led to this moment: the years of dismissive smiles when I spoke about my business, the polite silences when I tried to explain my milestones. The subtle erasures. How my mother would gloss over my news and pivot, breathless, into a story about which of Kathy's professors used to consult at the UN. I'd let it roll off me for too long. But tonight, standing under string lights with dirt on my shoes and a drink in my hand, something inside me shifted. Not bitterness. Not revenge. Clarity. I waited. Until the last toast was given, the applause faded, and the Bluetooth speaker started sputtering out synth-heavy pop hits. Guests began drifting to the dance area. The party was shifting gears. I stood, brushed the creases from my pants, and walked toward the spotlight where Kathy and her fan club were staging photos beside her new car, a gleaming blue compact with a crimson ribbon tied around the hood like a prize pig. "Hey, Kathy," I said, casual, like we were cousins catching up at a funeral. My voice carried just enough to draw the attention of the dozen or so guests in earshot. She paused mid-pose, turned with a careful smile. "Yeah?" I lifted my glass in salute. "Congrats. Seriously. It's gotta feel amazing, knowing your degree got you here. And it's beautiful, how your family rallies behind you." The grin widened on her lips, until I added, "My little online distraction just passed $1.2 million in revenue this year. But hey, nice Kia." Silence. It hit like a quiet thunderclap. Kathy blinked. Her face didn't fall, it cracked. Small, hairline fractures in that immaculate composure. A fork dropped somewhere behind her. My uncle's mouth hung open like a forgotten ornament. And my mother just stared. Like she was trying to reboot. I didn't linger. Didn't wait for someone to gasp or recover with a nervous chuckle. I simply turned, walked past the buffet table, the dying ferns, the fairy lights blinking like applause lights that had finally shut off. Behind me, someone whispered, "Wait, what did he say?" Let them dissect it. Replay it. Misquoted in tomorrow's brunch debriefs. I was done explaining. I walked alone down the gravel path, each step crunching louder than the last. Their eyes burned into my back like overhead stage lights, but I didn't turn. I didn't need the encore. I had said exactly what I needed to. And like any true performance, it was the exit they'd remember. I hadn't come planning to speak. I really hadn't. But something about that day, about years of being talked around, stepped over, laughed off, had reached a pressure point. And Kathy's jab? That wasn't a dig. That was a dare. When I reached my car and slid behind the wheel, there were no footsteps chasing after me. No shouts of protest. Just the hum of tires on gravel as I pulled away from that perfect little suburban tableau. By the time I arrived home, my modern, sunlit 3-bedroom with vaulted ceilings and clean concrete lines, the one I bought outright last year, my phone was already buzzing. First. Mom, that was uncalled for, Bradley. You embarrassed the entire family. Then, more diplomatic. Mom again, let's talk later. Please don't make this worse than it is. Then Aunt Lori. Was that really necessary? Kathy worked hard. You're not the only one with accomplishments. I placed the phone face down on the marble counter. Didn't answer. Didn't feel the need. The silence in my home felt like oxygen. Clean. Expansive. That night, I slept the kind of sleep you don't earn with applause or diplomas. It was the sleep of someone who had finally, spoken loud enough to be heard. The fallout didn't arrive all at once. It crept in gradually, like the tide reclaiming a shoreline. By Monday morning, I had 3 fresh interview requests sitting in my inbox. Not job applications, interviews about me. Turns out one of Kathy's friends had looked up my company after the party and passed the link around. Word had spread fast. Someone in their circle actually read our mission page, saw the numbers, the reach, the press features. And just like that, the online hobby had become a headline. Built, not stumbled into. That word mattered to me. A month ago, I'd have kicked the emails down to my assistant without a second thought. But not now. I took the calls myself. For once, I wanted people to hear me, no filters, no apologies. By Tuesday evening, the doorbell rang. No text. No warning. Just the chime, followed by the shadow of my mother holding a Tupperware container like a peace offering from a decade past. I opened the door slowly. Hi, she said. Her voice had the soft hesitation of someone standing on the edge of a truth they weren't sure they wanted to cross. I brought dinner. I stepped aside. She hovered at the entrance, eyes scanning the space, clean lines, curated art, warm lights on dimmers. All of it exuding a quiet, deliberate success. A success she had never quite made room for in her mental version of me. You've done well for yourself, she murmured. Yeah, I replied. I have. She placed the container on the counter like it might shatter. You embarrassed Kathy. The entire family, really. Her tone was flat but not without effort. She's devastated. I leaned against the kitchen island, arms crossed. She humiliated me in front of 50 people. I didn't start it. I finished it. Her jaw twitched. But, 1.2 million? She said it like she'd just read a curse off an ancient scroll. It's the truth. She looked at me for a long moment, then sat down heavily. Like the truth had weight. Why didn't you tell me? I let out a short laugh, more tired than cruel. I did. You just weren't listening. You liked the version of me that needed saving. That kept your sympathy clean and your story tidy. Bradley the dropout. Bradley the experiment. You didn't have to reckon with me. You just had to pity me. She winced. Not visibly. But I saw it in the way her fingers tightened around the edge of the chair. I never meant to pity you, she said softly. No? Then why was Kathy always ambitious, and I was just the kid making stickers in his room? No answer. Just silence. The kind that says, I know you're right, but I'll never say it aloud. Instead, she offered a confession, Kathy's looking for work. Nothing's come through yet. I gave her a smile, thin and tired and sharp at the edges. So the degree didn't unlock the golden gates after all? Her scowl flickered in an instant. Don't be cruel. I'm not. I'm just finally done apologizing for not being the person you scripted. She stood, brushed invisible crumbs from her blouse as if to reset herself. She wants to apologize, she mumbled. She knows she went too far. I didn't reply. Because I didn't believe her. Not yet. That night, long after she left, I finally looked at my phone for the first time since Saturday. One unread message. Kathy, hey. About the party. I shouldn't have said what I said. That was messed up. Can we talk? I stared at the screen, not out of indecision, but because the balance had shifted, and we both knew it. For years, I was the invisible one. The background character with dust on his shoes and potential taped to his back. Now? Now they saw the reality they'd ignored. I hadn't been wasting time. I'd been building an empire. Quietly. Methodically. And they'd missed every sign. The real twist didn't come until the weekend. That's when the mask finally dropped. Aunt Lori called. Not a text. Not a heads up. Just a voicemail. Her voice was tight, tinged with that brittle cheerfulness people use when they're asking for something they know they don't deserve. Bradley. Hi. I need to talk to you about something important. We've run into a little situation. Financial, I mean. Your uncle's hours were cut, and well, the lease on Kathy's new car isn't manageable right now. I didn't want to bring this up, but we're family. Right? I played it again. Not because I needed to. Because I couldn't believe how quickly the weather had changed. Days ago, I was a punchline in a parking vest. Now I was their emergency contact. And it finally made sense. They weren't just embarrassed. They were in need. And for the first time in my life, I wasn't the one knocking. I was the one answering. I didn't call Aunt Kayla back. Didn't text. Didn't acknowledge the voicemail. I let it sit, unanswered, looming. Let the silence stretch just long enough for discomfort to ferment into desperation. Because I knew this rhythm. I'd lived it. First came the mockery. Then, the silence. Then, like clockwork, the softened voices and the cloying refrain, we're still family. Only now, it wasn't love they were offering. It was a transaction. A tidy little favor with a dollar sign attached. And make no mistake, this wasn't some harmless request. This was expensive. I sat at the kitchen table, the warm hum of the pendant light above me casting long shadows over my hands as I opened my laptop and pulled up Kathy's Instagram. There it was. A pristine carousel of images from the party, gold banners, champagne flutes mid-toast, her manicured hand clutching the keys to her new beginning. The caption? To new beginnings and real work that makes a difference. There it was again. Real work. That particular phrase had begun to echo in my mind like a mosquito in a quiet room. I scrolled through the comments. Dozens of hearts, praise from extended family, acquaintances, classmates. A few even tagged her with starry-eyed emojis and said things like, "Can't wait to work together at the embassy." I almost laughed. Not because it was funny, but because I knew something most of them didn't. Kathy hadn't landed a single job offer. Not one. Not even a serious lead. My mother had let that truth slip between spoonfuls of lasagna when she was half defending her. 3 months out of school, no employment, and a leased car she couldn't afford. And still, she was painting over the cracks with curated filters and hollow praise. But I wasn't looking for revenge. Not yet. Then the second call came. This one from Uncle Luke. Bradley. Hey, my man. I just wanted to clear the air, you know we love you, right? That whole party thing, just a little harmless ribbing. Kathy's got a wicked sense of humor, doesn't she? Takes after her dad. He chuckled awkwardly, as if I were expected to laugh along. He continued before I could respond. Anyway, Kayla mentioned she left you a message. It's just things are a bit tight this month. The lease payments for the car, well, they're a little steeper than expected. It would mean a lot if you could spot us the first few months, just until Kathy gets settled. I mean, you did say your business was booming, right? I sat frozen, phone pressed to my ear like it might detonate. There was no recognition of the years I'd paid for birthday gifts no one remembered I bought. No mention of the groceries I'd silently funded, or the leaking roof I'd helped them patch 2 winters ago. No apology for Kathy's cutting remarks. Just the same performance, rewritten lines, recycled smiles, the assumption that I would say yes. Because I always had. And that's when I opened the spreadsheet. It wasn't spiteful. Just meticulous. I'd kept it over the years, not out of bitterness, but because someone had to. The loans. The favors. The unreturned generosity. $300 to Jason for textbooks. $2,000 to Aunt Kayla and Uncle Luke when the ceiling caved in. An endless list of unacknowledged help. The total? $42,860. Not counting interest. Not counting emotional bandwidth. Not counting the way they'd laughed behind their wine glasses while I picked grass from my sneakers. I stared at the number. Then I opened a new tab and drafted a message to Kathy. *Hey. Got your text. I've been thinking about it. I appreciate the apology. I do. And I know you worked hard, I'm not taking that from you. But I also think you need to understand how much I've given over the years, quietly, without credit. What you said at the party wasn't just a joke, it was a reminder that I've been tolerated, not respected. I've realized that I've spent years investing in this family, emotionally, financially, and the return has been silence, laughter, or erasure. No venom. No spite. Just clarity. A line in the sand. Then I sent a refined version of that same message, tailored, but firm, to Aunt Kayla, Uncle Luke, and more gently, to my mother. Her response was swift. The phone rang within minutes. "Bradley, we need to talk." "You can't just." But I could. And for the first time in my life, I was going to. "Yes," I said, calm, unshaken. "I can." And I just did. There was a long pause on the other end of the line. For once, she had no script. No maternal platitudes. I didn't know what to say, she murmured. "Did you really make over $1 million last year?" "Yes." "How?" "You never asked." Another silence, dense, weighted. The kind that fills the room even when no one's there. Then, "What do you want us to do?" That question hung in the air long after the call ended. Because that was the point, wasn't it? I didn't want them to do anything. I wanted them to stop expecting me to fix what they'd broken. To stop treating my kindness like a bottomless well. I hung up. Not in anger. Not even in finality. Simply because I didn't owe anyone a performance anymore. The mask was off. The bank was closed. And the family punchline had finally spoken. 2 days passed without a word from Kathy. No reply to my message. No acknowledgement. I assumed she was either stewing, crafting some performative apology, or simply too humiliated to form a sentence. I didn't particularly care. I'd said what needed to be said. For once, the weight that had lived in my chest for years, guilt, shame, invisible servitude, was gone. For the first time in my adult life, I felt light. Then, on the third day, something odd happened. A calendar notification popped up. Subject, Coffee by Kathy. Time, Saturday 10 a.m. Location, Café Alder, downtown. No explanation. No message. Just a quiet invitation dropped into my inbox like a white flag. I hovered over the decline button. But curiosity won. Not because I hoped for redemption. I just wanted to see her face. Saturday arrived under a sky thick with rain. Fitting, I thought. Café Alder was a small glass ambric place tucked on a corner near the old bookstore. I arrived 10 minutes early, ordered a plain black coffee, and sat by the window. No distractions. No sweetness. She arrived 5 minutes late, umbrella snapping closed, shoes too clean for the weather, wrapped in a cream blazer that looked curated for a magazine shoot. Even soaked in drizzle, Kathy dressed for applause. "Bradley," she said softly, a guarded smile playing on her lips as she sat across from me. "Thanks for coming." "I didn't expect you to show," I said. "Neither did I." A pause. She stirred her cappuccino with the kind of care usually reserved for fragile things. "I read your message," she said finally. Twice. Okay. And, you're right. I raised a brow, skeptical. I was awful, she said. Not just at the party, before that. 4 years. I dismissed what you did because I didn't understand it. And if I'm being honest, she hesitated, her voice tightening. I was jealous. That caught me off guard. Jealous? She nodded, still not meeting my gaze. You found your thing. You built something real. And here I am, degree in hand, no job, a leased car my parents can't afford, and nothing to show for it but curated captions and polite panic. That joke at the party wasn't about you. It was me, trying to feel superior while I was quietly falling apart. I let her words sit in the space between us. I didn't jump into comfort. I wasn't sure yet if I wanted to. I appreciate you saying that, I said after a beat. But it doesn't erase years of being treated like I was less. By you. By the family. By my own mother. I know, she whispered. That's on me. On all of us. Outside, the rain slid down the window in rivulets, quiet as breath. Why did you actually invite me here? I asked. She exhaled. Bit her lip. Not for money. I swear. Good, I said coolly. That door is closed. She nodded quickly. I know. I'm not here to ask for anything. I just wanted to own it. Publicly. My brow furrowed. Publicly? She reached into her handbag and pulled out her phone. Tapped the screen. Opened Instagram. And before I could speak, she turned the camera on herself and hit record. Hi, everyone, she said, her voice trembling slightly as she looked into the lens. So, this is going to be a little uncomfortable. But I owe someone an apology. A public one. I sat frozen. Because for the first time, maybe ever, Kathy didn't sound like someone who expected applause. At my graduation celebration last week, Kathy began, her voice measured. I made a dismissive comment about online businesses and those who build outside the traditional path. It was petty. It was wrong. And it was entirely inaccurate. She held the camera steady, even as her hands betrayed a slight tremble. My cousin Bradley is one of the most determined and successful people I know. He built his company from the ground up, no shortcuts, no favors. And I publicly belittled him for it. That's on me. I'm sorry. Not just to him, but to everyone who's ever had their work minimized because it didn't come with a degree or a title. She hesitated for just a second. Real success doesn't come with a diploma. It comes with grit, vision, and the willingness to be misunderstood. Bradley, if you're watching, thank you. I needed to be called out. She ended the recording and, without flinching, posted it. Then she slid her phone back into her purse and met my eyes. I blinked. That wasn't what I expected. I deserve the embarrassment, she said simply. You wore it for years. It's only fair I feel it now. For the first time, I didn't see Kathy, the golden girl, the polished prodigy, the family's favorite caption. I saw a young woman trying to undo the narrative stitched around her, and maybe, the one she'd stitched herself into. You're lucky I'm not petty, I said with a crooked smile. She smirked, the corner of her mouth twitching. Don't tempt me. We spent the next hour not talking about careers, money, or who won what. We spoke about places we wanted to see. A book she regretted not reading in school. The way silence feels different in the rain. Small things, quiet and uncompetitive. Things we'd never shared, because for most of our lives, we'd been performing. Competing. Avoiding. When we finally stood to leave, she hugged me, not one of those hollow sidearm pats. This one had weight. It said, I see you now. And that was enough. A week later, my mother called. Her voice was tentative. Did you see Kathy's video? I did. She didn't even tell us she was posting it. She didn't need your permission. A pause. I'm proud of you, she said, her voice catching. And I'm sorry. For the way I talked about your work. For not asking. For not seeing. I didn't gloat. I didn't list receipts. I simply said, thank you. The next family gathering came a month later, Uncle Roy's 4th of July barbecue. I showed up in jeans and a polo, like always. Only this time, there was no neon vest waiting for me. No folding chair near the trash cans. Kathy walked up with a full plate of food and handed it to me. You're sitting with me, she said. So I did. No speeches. No banners. No performative toasts. Just beer bottles clinking, casual laughter, and, for the first time in years, a strange, quiet balance. At one point, someone leaned over and asked, "So, Bradley, what is it that you do again?" Before I could respond, Kathy answered. He runs a multi-million-dollar digital brand. It's incredible. You should see his office setup. What followed was a silence I actually enjoyed. No coughing. No eye rolls. Just nods of respect and a few genuine questions. I answered too. Smiled. Then let the rest fade into the background. Because they wanted to know, and I no longer needed them to. The Kia is gone. Kathy now works at a nonprofit, doing work that fulfills her, not her parents. Aunt Kayla and Uncle Luke stopped calling. My mother still doesn't fully understand what I do, but now she tells people I'm some kind of internet wizard, and that's enough for her. I kept the spreadsheet. Not out of spite. But as a reminder of everything I gave and what I no longer owe. They say success is the best revenge. I disagree. Clarity is. After all that noise, after the years of being overlooked and talked over, stillness is the loveliest sound.